It was raining that night. The kind of rain that soaks to the bone and drowns the city in silence. Under an old bridge, a soggy cardboard box trembled. Inside it, a puppy. No collar. No blanket. No name. He wasn't crying anymore. He had already used up his tears. He just lay there, waiting, not even sure what for. People passed by. Some glanced. None stopped. But in those tiny eyes, wet and wide, was a quiet plea. Please, not like this. He had no idea where he was, or why the hands that once fed him had tossed him away. What he did know was this. He was alone, and he was running out of time. This isn't just another stray dog story. It's a story about hope, about second chances, and how one act of kindness can change a life forever. So don't blink. This puppy's journey is just beginning. The rain had slowed, but the cold hadn't. The puppy, barely the size of a school bag, curled tighter into the box's corner. Each breath was shallow, misting softly into the cold air. His fur clung to his skin like wet paper, offering no warmth, no comfort. He had once known warmth. A couch, maybe. A hand that scratched behind his ears. But those memories faded fast when the car door slammed shut and the box he sat in hit the ground. He didn't understand it then. Still didn't. Why love turns off like a switch. Why being small meant being left behind. The box was falling apart now, soaked through. With each gust of wind, it threatened to tip over completely. A broken flap hung down like a wet curtain, offering no real protection. He lifted his head when footsteps approached. A man with an umbrella, hurrying along the pavement. For a second, the puppy's ears twitched. Maybe this one would see him. But the man didn't even glance his way. Next came a mother holding a child's hand. The child tugged toward the box. "Mom, look." But the mother tightened her grip, muttered something, and kept walking. Again and again, he was almost seen. Almost. His stomach growled, but there was nothing to eat. He had licked the inside of the box, hoping for crumbs. There were none. He had chewed part of the flap in desperation, then threw it up. Still he stayed. Not out of hope. Hope was too big of a word. Out of instinct. Out of the tiny, quiet will to live. Hours passed. A stray cat passed by, paused at the box, hissed, and moved on. A rat scurried near the puppy's paw. He didn't flinch. He was too weak to care. Then, headlights. A car slowed nearby. The engine turned off. Doors opened. Laughter in the distance. Human voices. The puppy didn't lift his head. He had learned not to expect anything. But then, something new. A rustle. A soft voice. "Wait. There's something here." Footsteps approached the box. Knees bent. A girl's face peered in. Her eyes widened. "Mama, look. There's a puppy." The puppy blinked slowly, barely able to lift his head. Then, warmth. Hands wrapped him in a jacket. Fingers gently cradled his body. He didn't resist. Didn't bark. Didn't cry. He just let himself be held. Because maybe, just maybe, this time, someone had really seen him. The puppy, now wrapped in the warmth of the girl's jacket, felt a tiny spark of hope. Her name was Mina, the girl who had stopped when everyone else rushed past. She looked at him not as a problem or an inconvenience, but as a life that mattered. That simple act of noticing was the first light in a long, dark tunnel. But the world outside that jacket was harsh. Mina's mother hesitated. "We can't keep him. We don't have the space." Her voice was gentle but firm. Life wasn't easy for them either. The puppy, though, didn't understand rules or limits. All he knew was this. For the first time in days, his belly didn't ache. Mina promised, "I'll come back for you tomorrow." That night, the puppy slept on a patch of grass under the stars, the jacket folded beside him. Morning came cold and gray. The city was waking up, indifferent and busy. Cars honked. People hurried to their routines. The puppy trotted after Mina from a distance, hoping she'd stay with him longer. But she disappeared into a school building, leaving him alone again. Back on the streets, life was unforgiving. He learned quickly. Trash bins became his food source. Every day was a battle for scraps, stale bread, discarded fruit, any crumb that didn't have a human footprint on it. Once, he sniffed a warm meal someone had accidentally dropped near a cafe. The smell was heavenly, but as he tried to eat, a group of dogs appeared, larger, tougher, meaner. They growled and chased him away. He ran fast, heart pounding, lungs burning. He hid behind a dumpster, trembling not just from the cold, but from the sharp sting of loneliness and fear. People's eyes passed over him like he was invisible. A woman threw a rock. A child laughed and pointed. The puppy didn't bark back. He lowered his head and moved on. He learned not to trust. But in his heart, he still clung to that memory. Mina's gentle hands, the warmth of her jacket, the soft voice saying he was special. One evening, exhausted, he curled up in a corner, his ribs showing, formatted with dirt. And then, a voice. "Hey there, little guy. You okay?" It was an old man sitting on a bench, feeding pigeons. The man's eyes weren't full of anger or disgust. They held something different, something like sadness. The puppy lifted his head, hesitant. The man smiled softly and pulled out a small piece of bread. "Here. For you." The puppy edged closer, sniffed, and took the bread gently. For the first time in days, someone didn't chase him away. The man petted his head briefly, then looked out at the busy street. "You don't belong here. But neither do most of us." The puppy stayed by the man's side for a while, feeling less invisible. That night, he dreamt of warmth, of a place where he was safe. But the streets were waiting for him again in the morning. Days passed like shadows, blending into one another. The puppy, now thinner and weaker, wandered the streets with a quiet resilience. Every day was a new challenge, finding food, avoiding dangers, and dreaming of something better. Yet, deep inside, a small flicker of hope remained alive. One chilly evening, as the sun dipped low and the city's noise softened, a familiar voice called out. "Rollo! Rollo, come here!" The puppy's ears perked up. That name, it wasn't just any word. It was the first time he had ever heard a name meant for him. Mina. She was back. In her small hands, she carried a bright, worn-out blanket and a piece of bread wrapped in paper. Behind her stood her mother, hesitant but kind. "We can't keep him inside," the mother said quietly, "but maybe we can help for now." Mina wrapped the blanket around the puppy gently. It smelled of home, of safety. The warmth seeped into his chilled body. "Eat," Mina urged softly, placing the bread near his nose. The puppy sniffed cautiously and then ate greedily, savoring each crumb. That night, for the first time in weeks, the puppy slept curled up in that blanket under Mina's porch. The stars above twinkled gently, as if watching over him. He was no longer alone. The next days were filled with small miracles. Mina visited him after school, bringing bits of food, fresh water, and sometimes a toy, an old tennis ball she had found. The puppy learned to trust again. He even learned his new name, Rollo. Each time Mina called, "Rollo, come!" he wagged his tail and ran to her with excitement. But even happiness can be fragile. One afternoon, Mina's mother told her the truth. "We can only help for so long. Our landlord doesn't allow pets. We have to find a better place for Rollo." Mina's eyes filled with tears. The puppy tilted his head, sensing the sadness. "I promise I'll find you a forever home," she whispered, hugging him tightly. Rollo licked her face, his way of saying, "Thank you." The days grew colder, and the shadows longer. Yet, with Mina's care, Rollo grew stronger. He learned to trust again. He learned that kindness still existed. But the world outside was still waiting, harsh and uncertain. Would Rollo's journey end in a warm home, or would he be forced back into the streets? The answer was still out there, waiting to be written. Mina's promise weighed heavy on her young shoulders. Every day after school, she didn't just visit Rollo, she began a mission. She talked to neighbors, posted flyers, and asked around at local shops. "Does anyone want a puppy?" she'd ask, her eyes hopeful. But most people shook their heads. Some said, "No pets allowed," others, "Too much work." Many looked away. Rollo stayed close by, sensing Mina's worry. He would nuzzle her hand, offering silent comfort. One afternoon, Mina met Mrs. Khan, an elderly woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. "I've always loved dogs," Mrs. Khan said. "Maybe I can help." They arranged for Rollo to stay at Mrs. Khan's house temporarily, a small but cozy apartment with a sunny balcony. The first night there, Rollo curled up on a soft rug, feeling the gentle hum of the city outside and the kindness of a stranger inside. But the true test was still ahead. Would Mrs. Khan be his forever home? Weeks passed. Mina visited often, watching Rollo play and rest. Mrs. Khan cared for him well, but Mina noticed the loneliness in her eyes. Mrs. Khan had lost her own dog a year before. She was ready to give love again, but there was something missing. Rollo sensed it too. One afternoon, Mina's mother called with urgent news. "The landlord is stricter now. We have to find a permanent home fast." The pressure mounted. Mina cried to her parents, "Rollo deserves a family, a real home." That night, Mina sat beside Rollo, stroking his fur. "I won't give up on you," she whispered. And she didn't. The next morning, she took Rollo to the local animal shelter to check for microchips. Maybe someone was looking for him. No luck. But the shelter worker, Mrs. Patel, smiled gently. "Rollo is lucky to have you. Most dogs here don't get a second chance." Mina's heart ached but also burned with determination. Over the next few days, Mina and her parents discussed options. Could they save enough money to adopt Rollo? Could they talk to the landlord? Could they find someone trustworthy? Every door seemed closed, but Mina's spirit was not. Rollo, sensing her determination, wagged his tail harder. The journey for a forever home was still uncertain, but now it had a clear goal. A chance. A hope. Because sometimes, the smallest lives carry the biggest dreams. The days stretched into weeks, each one filled with worry and hope. Mina's family worked hard to convince their landlord, but it was no use. Pets were not allowed. But Mina didn't give up. One afternoon, she shared Rollo's story on social media. She posted pictures of the little puppy, thin, dirty, but with eyes full of hope. Her words were simple but powerful. "This is Rollo. He was abandoned but deserves love and a home. Please help us find his forever family." The post spread fast. Messages poured in from strangers moved by Rollo's story. Some wanted to adopt, others offered help or advice. Among the messages was one from Mr. Ahmed, a kind man who owned a small house on the edge of town. He had lost his dog recently and was ready to give love again. Mina's heart leapt. She arranged a meeting. The moment Mr. Ahmed saw Rollo, his face lit up. The puppy wagged his tail, sensing safety at last. "Looks like you found your home, boy," Mr. Ahmed said softly. Rollo licked his hand and settled into his new life. Mina felt tears welling up. The long journey, the hunger, the fear, the cold nights, had led here. Home. Months later, Rollo was no longer the fragile puppy under a bridge. He was strong, healthy, and loved. Mina visited often, and sometimes she and Mr. Ahmed took Rollo to the park, where he chased butterflies and played with other dogs. Rollo's story spread, reminding people how one small act of kindness could save a life. Because sometimes, even the most abandoned hearts find their way home. And when they do, they teach us all what hope truly means.